Good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Duncan and my buddy Michael Lane here with the Slim's Chance 7% Club, a podcast dedicated specifically for athletes looking to play college baseball. We're joined by a guest, a friend of mine, Coach Perry from Albright College. Um, Coach, you had 7 years at Gettysburg. Now you're going into your second full season that you have, like you got the guys that you're bringing in. Um, how's it going up there at Albright so far?
So far, so good. We're excited. We've gotten better the last couple years, and we got a large group of returning guys that have done a lot of positive things, and a freshman class that we're really excited about. Winter break is coming to an end here on Sunday, and we're ready to get after it on Monday.
Awesome, awesome. Um, so one of the topics that I know that has been hitting the news a lot is the JUCO verdict that came down, really specifically for the young man at Vanderbilt quarterback, but then impacted a number of other people. I imagine at some point NCAA is going to come down and put something in place to counter this or to put some controls on. I know there's a lot of misinformation going on out there. I've heard agents telling guys, hey, go to JUCO for 2 years and you still got your four and all kinds of craziness. So, what with the news came out, what was your initial feeling? Wow, is that crazy? Or I expected this, and then what did you think it would do to college baseball at all levels, not just specifically your program?
You know, my initial reaction was, "This is crazy." It's call it what it is. It's all about business and making money. And, um, now I think it's going to get even harder for if this continues and it passes, um, how it's written right now. Like, it's going to be really hard for high school players to go Division 1 out of high school. Um, and, we're still dealing with the COVID, right? This is the last year of COVID, and the game itself is really old in terms of like the player's age. And now
Right.
you're adding possibility of 24-year-olds playing as seniors, in big time Division 1 baseball. Um, for us here at our level, I mean, I think the hardest thing is going to be, attracting those young high school seniors to come play for us at the Division 3 level, understanding that they all want to play Division 1. They all want to play professional baseball. I mean, who wouldn't? And now all of a sudden they can go to junior college, and that's not going to count against their eligibility, get an associate's degree, and then go on to a 4-year school and play for 4 more years. That's kind of crazy. So I think it's really going to affect high schoolers coming out and going Division 1, especially, more so than the portal already has. And then, I think it's going to be a little bit harder now for a lot of us at the Division 3 level that aren't your perennial World Series caliber kind of programs,
Right.
where kids going to be like, I'm going to go to this community college for a year, see what happens, 2 years, see what happens.
Yeah, I think the NCAA is going to come in and put something out here probably in the next 180 days that says, hey, well, I do know that they came out and clarified the ruling saying this is not making it so that you can go 2 years and then go four. Um, but now I imagine they'll come out and something. They may have something, and I'm making this up where they say, hey, we're going to give you 5 years of eligibility as opposed to four, and you figure out how you want to do it between JUCO and whatever, and you get 5 years. I imagine there'll be something that they'll come out in concrete so that you don't have kids making decisions, especially as we get into the summer, and kids will be making decisions and commitments on where they want to go. And then I look at the fact that, Michael and I have talked about D1 rosters get cut down. They have more scholarships, but they have less on the head count, and so you got players that go from D1 that get pushed down to D2. Same thing on D2. Then you got guys pushed down to D3. This ruling almost makes the JUCO world a little bit more relevant than it was, unless you were a superpower, and it probably raises the level of overall baseball at the collegiate level anywhere. But back to your comment, high school players, Michael and I have said this for 3 years. Man, the 24 class, that's going to be the hardest one going in. Oh man, the 25 class, it's going to be hard. Now we're at the 26 class, and it's the hardest one, I think, going into going to college. So I suspect that there'll be some things coming down from that in the future.
Uh, there has to be. I mean, we have to come up with a way to somewhat slow things down, and I think first you have to address like NIL and how where's that going to go.
Right.
I've heard some things where the schools are actually going to start paying the student athletes, right? So does that mean they're going to start getting paid from the school and NIL, or like is the payment through the school going to kind of minimize the NIL money? Like there's just so many different variables right now.
Right.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned, the reduction of the roster sizes at Division One, like that's already for the high school, like the 26 class, like you had mentioned, like there's gonna be, I don't even know how many are in the portal right now, but there's gonna be a lot of players in the portal at the end of this spring.
Yep.
Their coaches were like, "Hey, sorry, like we gotta cut the roster, and we don't have a spot for you."
Right.
So now, as crazy as the portal has been, it's going to be even crazier because there's going to be that many more kids trying to figure out where's my next step? Where am I going to next?
Yeah, I feel like all this craziness that we're talking about right now kind of started with the portal. It was kind of the first thing that happened. How has the portal changed the way you guys recruit? Are you guys looking at the portal first and then going to the high school kids? Tell me a little bit about that.
No, for us, my first year when I first got here to Albright, I had a roster of 25, and so I first tried to get into the portal, and we're a rebuilding program, and I had zero success. I'm even reaching out to kids that I recruited out of high school when I was at Gettysburg, and they were all kind of like, Division 1s, 2s, and 3s were all kind of like, coach, I think I'm going to go somewhere better. And I'm like, kind of just were, and you didn't play a lot. Like, you say you want to play, like you got a chance to come here, play, and make us better.
Right.
So for me, I really try to get as many high quality high school players as possible, and want the guys that truly want to be here for 4 years. And having that being said, we're getting to a point now where it's going to be harder and harder to play as a freshman. Like, so
True.
Are you going to be able to, wait your turn? Like my freshman year at Stonehill, I pitched 7 innings in 50 whatever games it was. It was the best decision I ever made because all of a sudden I had to work way harder than I ever did before.
Right.
Like all of a sudden become like one of the go-to guys out of the bullpen, spot start, whatever it might be. And then again, you add the reduction of the roster sizes now. Like, I don't know how big our roster will get because there's less opportunities, but there's still a ton of high-quality baseball players out there.
Yeah.
So I don't really do a lot with the portal. Any of the transfers that we have had have reached out to me specifically, and I guess it's a good thing because they have buddies of theirs on our team, and they in turn have also like fit a need for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how like the handful of transfers that we've gotten over my last like 2 years really have been individuals reaching out to me, and then because of a friend and fit in a need for us. So it's for us here. It just hasn't been very successful.
Not a main focus.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you get you focus on the high school player.
Yep.
You've had success bringing in high school guys. What's what happens with your freshmen when they come in that first off season? So I imagine in the fall they get the introduction to guys that have been there
Mhm.
or been in college for a few years and realize what college baseball really is, how important the weight room is, all the things that you guys focus on. And I know not a lot of high school programs and travel programs make that the main focus. So your freshmen that come in, what are you seeing in that fall season, and what's the off season like integrating them into the roster and the current players?
I mean, it's definitely a wake up call for a lot of the freshmen that come in, because I don't think they understand it doesn't really matter kind of what team you're on, how good Division III baseball truly is. Right?
Right,
That
right,
going on through a lot of their whole recruiting process, they've been like, I want Division I. All right, well, nobody's coming knocking. Well, I want Division II. Well, nobody really came knocking there either. So it's kind of like they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go there and not. They look at our record and they say, oh, I'm going to play right away, or things like that. And
right.
all of a sudden they realize, well, they're kind of going against grown men. Uh,
Yeah,
right? And they hit that wall early on where, physically, because we're going a lot. It's 4 or 5 hours a day when we get to use those days and go. Um, Plus the off days, get in the weight room, working out with our strength and conditioning coach. So like, they some of them struggle early and kind of it's a little bit of a wake up call, being like, I haven't really struggled like this in a long time. And then, you know, we're asking them to do a whole heck of a lot more than high school travel, things of that nature. Uh, so I definitely think it's a wake up call for the vast majority of them. We've had a couple of guys come in right away as freshmen that all of a sudden some of these older guys are like, "Well, coach, that kid can play." And,
right.
I like to think I know what I'm doing. So yeah, good. I'm glad you agree, right? Um, but so it's definitely an eye opening experience for them. Um, and then for us, Division III, once our fall season ends, which we'll say is October like 20th or so, from that point on, we give them the workout plans. We tell them, hey, the cage is available. You got to do all this stuff on your own. And so the guys that truly want to develop and get better, those are the guys that come in, work out on their own. They go upstairs, hit on their own, pitchers throwing on their own, always working on something without mom and dad driving them to a facility, any of that sort of stuff where, it's a little bit more hands off.
Right.
The guys
Yeah.
that succeed a lot are the guys that, have that extra work ethic and care and want to play right away. First thing somebody says to me when, hey, coach, why am I not playing? Well, how many times did I see you upstairs hitting in the cage on your own time?
Right.
Okay. Well, that answers the question. All right, let's go. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the kids aren't used to that, right? They come from high school where most times they're the best players on their team, and then they come into college and everybody's the best player on the team, and they're not really used to that. What advice would you give a high school kid getting ready to go into college as far as being prepared? Should he focus on the weight room, that sort of thing? Like what's your advice to somebody about to go into college?
I mean, yeah, you got to be in the best shape of your life when you step foot on campus in the fall, right? Because especially us schools up here in the Northeast, right? When you come back in the winter, we're inside, right?
Hmm.
Unless you're fortunate enough to have a great outdoor turf facility, catch some, mild days here and there, we're inside. So, you know, when you want to earn a role on the team, like you earn that role in the fall. Like what
Yeah.
you do against, I mean, we inter squad 16 times in the fall. And we're like, here you go, pitchers, you're getting 15 innings, hitters, you're getting 40 at bats. Show me what you can do. And if you come in and you're not in shape, right? You're gonna get hurt, you're gonna break down, you're not gonna, and then all of a sudden you get buried. And I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but at the end of the day, the big part of my job is we got to win games.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah, there's other important things: graduate, do well academically, be good people in the community. But what people really look at is what's your record.
Right.
So I would say you got to come in great shape physically. Your overall strength and conditioning. Pitcher's got to be in great shape, ready to go, and start like throwing live. Give us an inning, give us 2 innings. And that's hard because of how early sometimes, summer ball ends, depending on if they're playing travel or the local league, whatever it might be. Like, you got to go to your buddies and say, hey, I got to throw live. Like, let's go. Get to the
Right.
field.
Right.
Because if you come back and you throw one outing and then you're on the shelf for 2 weeks, like, that tells I can't trust you. You're not in shape, ready to go.
Right. So let's say you get word from a friend, another player, somebody says, look, there's a guy at this place, at this school, on this team, would be a great fit here. And you decide, all right, you've seen video, you've seen the metrics, whatever you needed to see to determine, all right, I'm actually going to go watch this kid play.
Yeah.
You pull up in the parking lot. What are you looking at from this player from the moment they get there to, getting out of the car, to the field, on the field, and back off the field? What is it that most college coaches, so speaking for, the general, but also specifically, what's Coach Perry looking at when he's looking at that player specifically?
I'm looking for, when he gets out of the car and he starts making his way to the field, like, are his pants on, shirt tucked in, right? His turf's on. So when he gets to the field, he's like, all right, look, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to start warming up. I don't like seeing guys coming in their sandals, shorts, have the different shirt on. You got to change, and it takes, because, when we get there, it's, hey, let's go. Get off the bus, change, get your spikes on, and we're ready to go. How they interact with their parents when they, his mom and dad carrying their bags, giving them water, that sort of stuff.
Right.
Are they a good teammate? Like, how do they interact with their teammates, with their buddies? Are they somebody positive, somebody that's kind of like a good team guy, easy to joke around with? Because that's a big deal, right? Especially when you have a roster of, let's just say, 40, and you have a couple guys that aren't bought in and in with the team. They can take away from what the other 38 guys are trying to do. And
Sure.
I know that's tough. So I definitely look for, outside of, obviously I'm already interested in what they can do as a player. How they interact with their coaches. Do they always have an excuse for something? We've crossed guys off our list because the pitcher complains, this mound stinks, or this, you got to make that play, or this or that. When it's like, well, all right, yeah, that guy might have kicked the ball, but guess what? You walked the 2 other guys before that. So, like, what are we talking about here? So, ultimately, besides the talent, like, are they a good guy, right? Is it somebody that, I could see myself hanging out with, or things like that? Because that's
Right.
the day after they graduate, I'm hoping we're staying in contact, and he's keeping me up to date with how things are going in his life, and all that sort of stuff. So how they interact, especially a lot with their teammates, even when it's to go start stretching, do they run out to stretch or do they walk? Right? Like, we tell our guys, as soon as your feet hit that grass, you're running everywhere you're going. Doesn't have to be a sprint, but we're jogging with a purpose to get to where we're going. So,
Yeah. What age do you think guys should start? You see some guys that are, maybe freshmen in high school, and they're going out to showcases and they throw 70 off the mound and they weigh 110 pounds, where I think they should maybe use that money to help develop themselves. So you see that end of the spectrum where guys go out way too early. What do you think is the right age to start going out to showcases?
Now with the rule, I mean, before the Division One like recruiting rule kind of got pushed back a little bit, I would have said, if you're a sophomore in high school, um, but now with the rule in place, I don't think you need to spend that kind of money until you're probably in your junior year. Um,
Yeah,
if you're a borderline kind of like Division One kind of guy, right? I think what's getting lost in the shuffle is, they got to surround themselves with good people, right? Like I know if I was playing for Steve and I'm a left-handed pitcher and I'm a junior throwing 75, but I want to go to some Power 5 camp, he might say, "Hey, let's save our money and use that money towards, extra weightlifting sessions or why don't you right now go look at this school or that school's camp, right?"
yeah,
Too many times guys are just like, yeah, because we want to get our name out there. Our program sends all these guys Division One, wherever, what have you, and the kids are getting bad information. Um, so I'd say junior year at this rate. That's just me because you know high school when you're a junior now they can't talk to you till I believe it's August 1st now of your junior
Yep.
year,
Yep.
right? So why spend all that kind of money before that?
yeah,
Uh,
So so I'm going to play devil's advocate on that. So I think one of the things that with our program specifically,
mhm,
I've encouraged sophomores, but I even have two freshmen on our showcase team. Um, and when we extended an offer to them, there was a specific reason. They'll walk on the field and there won't be a coach there that has any clue they're a freshman. They look the part. They're 6'3". They weigh 185 or 190. Um, they're not there. They might still only be throwing 80. They're not there athletically or physically yet with the talent. But when I look at guys, I'm usually freshman is probably too early, unless there's a specific reason that you should go in front so a coach can see you.
there's always an
Maybe
exception to a rule, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like I
yeah,
don't think there's a perfect way to do it, but
right,
if you're a freshman, sophomore throwing 70, I'm just using that as like a pitch.
yep,
Well, like that's not going to help your case
yeah,
no matter like at any level, right?
yeah,
So maybe like, but you got that freak of nature that's 6'3", 190, throwing 80, 81. Well, like, yeah, maybe get him to go to a bigger camp and
get on the radar and be watched for a year or two and see what kind of progression. We sent a video out to our guys. Michael and I and Emir have talked for years. 90 being a key number, right? You got to tick 90 off the bump. Um, if you're a righty, a lefty might sneak in at 87 or 88, but 90 being the number. Exit velo has got to be 90 plus, and again, 9 being the number. Running a sub 7, so a 6'9" or faster. So we trigger a lot on the nines. We were looking at a video the other day. One of the training programs that down south my son went to this winter, and they were showcasing. I guess I don't know if it was the top arms, Michael, or if it was literally just the guys that hit 95. Like 90 isn't the number anymore. Like 90 is like whatever. That's nice. And it was. I mean, it had to be 30 dudes and that were just kept repeated, just every pitch after pitch after pitch of here's the 95 or higher arms that were here today.
you know,
It's so we talk about the development and a kid that throws 70 and they think, oh, I'll just go to XYZ D3 school and I'm sure I can get on the bump. and then they realize, Coach Perry's not looking for a kid that throws 78. Coach Perry's got dudes on the roster that are throwing in the 80s and approaching, the 90. And if you're not coming in either at that or progressing towards that, you probably ought to look for other options. And maybe baseball isn't what you should be doing in college. Just enjoy your time there.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we still have some high, like on our roster right now, freshmen that are, 78 to 82, but they throw 3 pitches for strikes.
Right.
And nothing straight, right? So, and they move well. They're pretty athletic. So you're like, okay, well, hopefully that develops, and then, they're 85, 88, whatever it might be. But even still, yeah, I mean, the average fastball in Division III is definitely going up. I'd probably say it's, more of mid to some upper 80s, especially when you get in the conference games, right?
Right.
'Cause we just don't have the depth of like the Division IIs, and the Division IIs don't have the depth of a lot of the Division Ones. But the hard part is there's guys got to find a way to be able to balance throwing hard, right? Those guys like 95, but then also being able to miss barrels in a game, right?
Right.
Miss barrels in a game. You saw the new rules in Major League Baseball, right? Stealing bases became a big part of Major League Baseball again.
Right.
So now you got to throw 95, but be able to hold a runner on base.
Be quick about it.
Be quick about it, and still execute your pitches. So I think those facilities are great. I think they're awesome, right? That's what they do. But it's got to still be able to translate to the game, right? Like if I got a guy throwing 90, but he can't field his position, can't manage the running game, and flip a coin if he's going to be in the strike zone. Well, I'm going to go with the guy that's 83 that can do all of that and be like, all right, we're going to take our chances.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
It reminds me of a conversation we just had at Slim's where it was me, Coach Steve, Coach Trade, Chad Cool, and another White Sox player, and we were talking about that, how there's these guys at these facilities, and they're posting them throwing hard, but it's like that's cool, but they suck at baseball. Like they throw hard, but they don't throw strikes. They don't have any other pitches. Like you said, they can't hold runners on. They can't get outs in games. So it's cool, but they're not good at the thing that actually matters.
right.
Yeah, look, 95, all 95s aren't created equally. We talk about that too. You got the Michael Lane 95 that has movement and run on it, and then you have another 95 that just comes in sitting flat, and they'll catch it. They'll catch up to it. We had a conversation with a young man that is a freshman at St. Joe's, tall lefty, and I asked him how did his fall season go, and he said, "Well, Coach, I threw a ton of strikes. I filled the zone up." And I said, "You're saying that like it's a bad thing." He goes, "Well, the hitters loved it because I didn't have as much movement as I had hoped, and they beat me around the park. But I walked one guy all fall, and I thought, well, all right, you're sticking to the positive and you're finding on." He said, "Yeah, I gotta." And his velo wasn't horrible. He was sitting 87 to 89 as a 6'5" lefty, but didn't have enough movement on it. And the best pitcher on their staff this fall was a guy that was throwing 85 to 87 lefty. But the ball moved all over the place, and I think he gave up one hit all fall. So again, these guys trying to see this and have to understand, like you said earlier, missing barrels. I know one of the local D1 coaches here, his big saying to me all the time is, "I just want to see swing and miss." And he says it, and I know it's kind of tongue in cheek. I don't care about velo. I want swing and miss. And so, we've sent guys to him to look at that are throwing 90, 91, and there wasn't enough swing or miss from his perspective. So I think that's also an important thing, how balls tunnel, off of a pitcher's hand when they come out. So.
Yeah. And, like when I was growing up and playing, all this tunneling, this and that, like that, nobody really talked about it. It was just keep your arm slot the same. Right?
Right.
That was it. Now you go to all these facilities, you got TrackMans, you got Edgertronic, this, that, and the other thing, and so I do think the pitchers are getting much, much better in terms of that sort of stuff. But
Right.
I think we're not teaching enough, like how to the game within the game, so to
Yeah.
speak. And you know, and then when guys get here, like I mean, I wish we had a portable TrackMan. I wish we had Edgertron, this, that, and the other thing. But we got to rely on what's the ball telling me.
Right.
Like trust your eyes, trust your catcher, things like that. So we've almost become too reliant in some ways on tech. Where
On the data. Right.
Hmm.
for me, it was to figure it out. If I missed here, that means I did something else. Like if I missed high arm side, either my arm lagged or my front shoulder came out too soon. But like I didn't have somebody talking, well, what's your spin rate, this, that, and the other thing. You just kind of got to be able to figure it out. And sometimes people ask me, what am I looking for? And I'm like, FIO guys that can figure it out.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Michael, anything else you had? I had one more question.
No, go for it.
So, what is it about Slim's Chance that draws you to our players? What makes us different in your eyes? And what is it that we could do as a program to improve and maybe be more like another program that you follow closely with players, so we can improve what we're doing over here.
Yeah. What? I mean, I think you guys are one of the best programs in the area. We've had a good amount of success getting players from your program. What I like is you guys play the game the right way. You and all your coaches teach the game. You also hold your kids accountable, right? So, like, that's a big deal, right? Like, for us, I got to hold 40, 50, whatever, however many guys accountable.
Right.
And a lot of guys, and I'm not trying to sound like this old guy, but a lot of kids aren't being held accountable anymore.
Right.
Obviously, you got good players, but they're good kids and they play the game the right way. I'm not there on the day-to-day, so I can't speak to do better. But what I appreciate is, if I text you, call you, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm really interested in Michael Lane." He's probably honestly like, it's not a good fit, right?
Right.
But then you'll push me guys that are a good fit. And you'll be honest with me about other guys being like, they're not quite there yet, but he's got the tools and he's got the grit, the grind, like he wants to get better. Right? Or you'll be open and honest and I'll say, hey, Steve, I'm kind of interested in so-and-so. You'll be like, well, he needs to pick it up. Like he's got to find another gear. He's not a grinder. He's not in when we say, hey, we got open hours. He doesn't come around the facility to get swings, throw, whatever. So, for me, a lot of it's been built on the relationship with you and the transparency that we have and the open communication. But then you also got good kids that can play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's almost the easy part. I think, Michael has had the opportunity, one, coming through the program and now seeing it as a mentor to a lot of our players. He's in there running a pitching program right now, he and E with our showcase guys and even some younger players. I think seeing this side of it is a little bit different for him on, how we built this. It wasn't, we had all the best players. That wasn't the case. I think what we started early doing was building the players, showing from fall to spring or fall to summer and then summer to fall. Coaches saw a kid 2 or 3 times and saw him better every time in some facet. And then to your point, I've told the kids, don't ever put me in a position I won't lie for you. So if a coach asks me, what are they like? I will be very clear. I won't bury a kid but I'm also not gonna, make him into something that he's not. And so I think that's been helpful, and I honestly think that's played a big part. The first part being, I give Coach Trait a lot of credit with the introductions that he made for me. But then from there, it was, being candid and honest with coaches. Hey, that guy's not what you saw that day. You saw the best version of him. You should see him on a random Tuesday. Or, man, that guy wasn't what you saw. That was a weird. You should see him 90% of the time and send some video and get him to come back. And I think that candidness has gone a long way with a lot of our players. We're 3 years into this, and we've now got 30 players in 3 years committed in college programs. It's the 7% club, and we're rivaling somewhere around 90% of our players are landing on rosters. So I think that's the coaches around us and Michael's seeing some of that now from this perspective. So it's been great. So I appreciate the relationship you and I've had and the feedback you've given me too, bud.
It's been great. I mean, you're right. We do owe Trey. Pains me to say it, but we owe him.
Yeah.
How we got introduced. But and the other side to it too is you're a guy I trust. Sometimes I might only get to see your guys once in the summer, and then maybe an assistant does, or just with how busy things are.
Right.
And I'll say, hey, I liked him, and you're like, yeah, go for him. Things like that, because just the nature of summer baseball now, it's hard to see guys
right
consistently.
Correct.
A lot, especially for us. And, we got to get as big a funnel of good players as possible, and then ultimately see what it shakes itself out to. And you've been great in terms of always helping me out with that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, it's we're at that mark. We appreciate your time, Coach. We appreciate the feedback. Thank you for taking the opportunity and the time to be with us, sharing some knowledge. Hopefully our families and players reap the benefit of the information you shared. Michael, thank you for all you do with this podcast and keeping us in line. And as you start progressing into your season at this point, I know we're excited to keep an eye on you and see how your spring season goes. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, just thank you, man. Thank you, Coach. Really appreciate this. I think there is a lot of valuable information that we talked about today. So I hope all the guys in high school are listening to this and definitely take it to heart. So thank you for your time, Coach.
Thanks for having me. Good luck this spring.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching us today. And I'm Steve Duncan with my friend Michael Lane and our guest speaker, Coach Justin Perry from Albright College. Some Chance 7% Club. Have a great weekend.